What up, y'all? It's your man D Real, and I want to talk to you about the Orishas in comics. The Orishas are the pantheon of African gods. Why did they not make an appearance in Marvel comic books until 2016? Let's talk about that. Let's be real with D Real. What up, y'all? It's your man, D-Rail, and Edutainment is what I do. Happy Juneteenth to you and yours. Happy Freedom Day. Now, what I want to talk about, I probably won't be before you long. I know that's what the pastor always say at church when you're ready to eat, and then goes on for another hour and a half. But I won't be before you long. I just want to talk to you a little bit about parthenons of gods in Marvel Comics. Now, the Orishas are an amazing pantheon of gods. They have the same type of gods that have the same principal things that they represent as any other European or Asian gods. Now, the first mention, of course, of gods in Marvel Comics, I guess, would have to be Thor. Thor is a Scandinavian god, which is the area, which is Norway, Sweden, Iceland, that area, and there have been several iterations of Thor, not only in Marvel comics but in DC comics as well, and Thor has occurred prominently throughout Marvel comics since the 1960s. Also, another god that was introduced in Marvel Comics was Hercules. Well, Hercules technically is a demigod, but after he died, he went on to godhood. The first mention of an Orisha, an African god, wasn't until the 80s. And I believe it was Thor Annual number 10, where we saw Chongo. The thunder god. Now, y'all been making comics 20 years, and I've seen Norwegian gods in comics prior to the 80s. I've seen Greek gods in the comics prior to the 80s. I've even seen Asian gods prior to the 80s. Now, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Hey, D Real, there's been Egyptian gods in Thor comic books in the 70s. Yeah, Egyptian gods. Understand something. Africa is arguably the largest continent on the planet. And much like any other country or continent, the people do not worship the same parthenons of gods. There's a huge sect of Christianity in Africa, a huge sect of Islam. Islam is majority Islamic, but there's no mention of the ancient pagan Orishas that nobody seems to think are worth worshiping or even worth mentioning. And like I said, one God, Shango, and one comic book. I, I didn't see. And if I am in error, by all means, please correct me. And even if there have been instances of gods from the African Pantheon or an Orisha after that, no Orisha's ever had a regular monthly comic. No Orisha's ever had a limited series. And in Black Panther, your flagship character, the Black Panther, the only god that gets mentioned throughout that is Bast. When do we get to see Sekhmet? You know what I mean? When do we get to see Ogun? When do we get to see Oya? We don't get to see none of them. I don't even think there was a consistent mention of Orishas, like I said, until a Spider-Man comic in 2016. Why do you think that is? Italian and Jewish artists don't feel like researching Orishas. They feel like it isn't their place to depict Black gods? Or does the presence of a Parthenon of African gods make people just a tad bit uncomfortable? I don't know. It was just something that I was wondering about that crossed my mind. I thought it was rather strange that I have never ever seen an Orisha comic book. Even a Nuncy. I'd love to see a Kwaku Anansi comic. How often have you seen Anansi in comics? And I know everybody knows who Anansi is. Anansi isn't necessarily a god, but he's a very, very, very prominent character in African, in Yoruba, and Ashanti cultures. They tell the stories of Anansi, who is the owner and proprietor of all stories. So what do y'all think about that? Do you and I don't want to go too deep and get all conspiracy theory, but I'm kicking facts, edutaining, if you will. Um, what up with that, Marvel? Can I get an Ogun comic book? Can I get a Chango comic book? Let a brother know what's happening. If y'all digging what I'm shoveling, put some dirt in my bucket. Comment, like, and subscribe to the Be Real with D Real page, and you'll get alerts when new videos are posted. Until then, y'all be good. Be good to each other.